Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take a moment of silence. Good morning. Welcome to the March 22nd, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting. If you have not already done so, please silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate or however you need, what you never need to do. And I will go ahead and do the roll call, beginning with Commissioner Culbertson.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
I'm here. Commissioner Smith, Doug Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
You're all present and accounted for. Public comment. Do we have any public comment? Let's see. We have Joe Herring. No public comment today. Okay.
What?
Well,
Okay.
he was on the agenda.
Oh, I'm just surprised. Joe's always got something to say. Go ahead.
Okay, then we'll move on to administrative business. Do we have anything from... Okay, I'll start with Commissioner Culbertson. Do you have anything for admin business?
Nope. No.
I had a couple of things. I don't know if any of you know or seen it, that Jackson County, Kansas is seeking a remedy for their lost revenue for their federal lands that they don't get any tax money on. They've hired a firm, and they're going to use their ARPA money to hire the firm. It's $5,000 a month for a one-year contract for them to try to get some of their lost revenue back from the federal government. So I didn't know if that was something that we should look at, because we have a lot of tax-exempt property, federal lands, and
$2.8 billion worth.
Yeah, well, that would include the state also, though, wouldn't it? This would just be for federal money or federal lands, I believe. So I'll follow up with the information on that.
Yeah, I'd like to read that.
And also, we'd received a letter from the fire marshal, one day and one the next. Does anybody know what prompted that change in that?
My understanding was they didn't understand that we had adopted codes.
So you reached out to the fire marshal? Well, but the first letter even says the 2006 code, so.
And if you read the second letter, it said that they understand the county's adopted the 2006 codes.
Correct.
Which
Okay.
I didn't understand. The first letter I didn't understand.
It was not. It says based on the International Building Code of 2006. And then this letter says Leavenworth County Commission advised. So you advised them, not the commission.
No, I didn't advise them. I called and inquired.
Okay. I just thought it was strange. We got a letter one day and then a letter the next day rescinding it.
I thought the initial letter was strange.
Okay. And I think that's all I have.
Commissioner Stevens, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a letter to a constituent from a local district representative, and I have a couple questions for staff about this letter. And I'll just read a couple excerpts from it. One excerpt says, Leavenworth County received $19 million and spent $12 million plus of it refurbishing the Cushing Hospital.
I don't think so.
Can you give the approximate correct numbers?
Well, we've spent probably less than $5 million. Well, I know it's less than $5 million on the Cushing building of ARPA funds.
That's total.
The funds received, I think, are closer to $16 million. But there have been other funds spent on Cushing other than just ARPA funds, but nowhere near that amount.
So, and those are all ARPA funds, not county funds. what we
Yeah, the 5 million. Like I said, we have spent some county funds because it's a county building, just like this building, like the Justice Center, any building. We have certain upkeep and maintenance that we've done on it. When we first took it over, there was some deferred maintenance that needed to be done before we even had the ARPA funds. So, but nowhere near the level that you just stated.
Okay, and another quote from this letter. The state legislators have completely made the decision that procedures and regulations for taxes are only option that we have because we have given money to the counties, and they do not use the money to lower taxes even when they say they will.
What have they given us?
That's what I was going to ask staff. Do you know what he's referring to?
Well, I think in that email that you had shared with me earlier, he referenced that the ARPA funds, we didn't use that to help offset taxes, but specifically that you are not allowed to use ARPA funds. That's one of the options they say you cannot do is use those funds to reduce taxes. So it has to be spent on governmental expenditures that are things that we normally wouldn't have maybe have done. But as far as given and that we've not spent to reduce taxes, it's been my experience that they've taken money from us, revenue from us, and that forces us to increase local taxes because the state has taken away revenue sources that we've previously had that they've it's still statutory that they provide that revenue to us. They just don't.
I have a question kind of related to that. With all the legislation that's getting ready to happen and some of the taxes that they are going to or have looked at or recommending that be legislated, and that's supposed to assist county revenue as well. What guarantee do we have then that once they collect those taxes that they're not going to turn around and do the exact same thing that they've done with the local ad valorem tax relief, which is what those taxes were supposed to be for? What's the guarantee that they're going to return those funds to the county to offset?
You're talking about the earnings tax or an additional sales tax?
Anything.
Or whatever.
Anything. Where is the guarantee that that's going to come back to us? Because there was supposed to be a guarantee that they were going to return those funds to us to begin with, and they haven't yet to do so.
I think if you look
asking.
at past practice is probably the best indicator of future performance. And again, time and again, at the state level, they grant either exemptions to taxation. So we'll talk the Thief in the Night bill that they passed under Governor Sebelius. It was the last hour of the last day of the session, and they granted business and machinery exemption.
Right.
And in that bill, they said, but we're going to slide into this. We're going to replace the local government's lost revenue because of what we did. So over a 5-year period, we'll absorb it. We'll pay you what you lost. They didn't make a single payment.
Right.
They exempted a huge portion of our income, which is business machinery that was taxed.
Yep.
They exempted it.
I remember.
Never gave us the replacement revenue. So then the local ad valorem tax reduction, that was an agreement that they made with counties because we used to collect the taxes locally. And they said, you know what, let us do it. We'll keep a small percentage, but we'll give you this offsetting revenue so that it just works better. And they did it for a while, and then they just quit doing it. And again, that's still on the books that they're supposed to give it to us. But what the loophole they use is they don't transfer any money into that fund. Therefore, they don't have to distribute any funds from that. So each year, they continue to exempt more and more off of the tax rolls. They have legislation right now in there that would exempt businesses that probably, I think conservatively, would be half the businesses in the county would be exempt if that legislation went through as presented. That basically says businesses would be exempt if there was a governmental entity providing the same type of service. So basically, in competition with private business, then those businesses wouldn't have to pay property taxes. That again, every concession stand at a sporting event, like a high school sporting event, would then exempt any restaurant. The activity center here in town that provides like the basketball court and stuff, because they don't pay taxes, then that would exempt any kind of gymnasium or any kind of private gym, I mean. So they just, I don't know if they don't take that into consideration or if they don't care because they don't collect property taxes more than 1.5 mils, so it's a very small portion of their budget. But they do all these exemptions, and then they question why our local taxes have to go up to offset that lost revenue and criticize us that your taxes are going up faster than inflation. Well, you're taking our revenue away faster than inflation. Sorry. I mean,
Mark, I got a question for you. You hear all this time about revenue neutral. Is the state revenue neutral?
No. And their budget has grown at a pace faster than ours.
I knew the answer.
Straight up.
I just wanted to get that out there.
Another piece of legislation that I think people need to be aware of that could have a big impact on our roads and a big impact on local cities' operating budgets. The state last year agreed to exempt sales tax on food. Only their portion of the sales tax, which is most of the sales tax. I mean, they collect the biggest portion of sales tax. So, but it was just there, so it was kind of the counties and cities were kind of like, well, you know, if you can afford it, I guess. They just put new legislation in. I don't know that it's approved, but they've presented new legislation that would also then take our sales tax away on food sales. We didn't get any say in that. In the county's case, that money goes directly towards roads. That's what we use our sales tax for. It goes directly towards roads. But in a lot of the cities, that's their operating budget. That goes straight into police, fire, EMS. Well, not EMS because we do the EMS, but still, it's direct operating funds. And without a consideration of how it impacts local government, they've just amended that bill slightly, just took out a couple of words, and now all of a sudden our sales tax would also be exempt on food. The food would be exempt on our sales tax as well.
Yeah. One thing, too, that I could, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up because I did see that in the article. And for anybody that's an elected official to write comments that just aren't true really bothers me. You can go find the information anywhere. You can call, you can ask, you can do anything. But to state things like that just fires everybody out in the community up when it's just not factual. It's just not factual. And we sit up here all the time trying to put these fires out from people that are elected or some that aren't. And if they do their homework and not just try to say this sounds like good so I'll stir everybody up, we get a lot more done. But we're constantly putting out fires of things that just aren't factual.
And a lot of people are not paying attention to these exemptions that they're giving out, like the Genesis Health Club one that they're trying to exempt.
Yep.
And people will say, well, I don't go to the health club, I don't own a health club, it doesn't affect me. What they're not paying attention to is every time they give an exemption, that's just a tax shift. It funnels that tax down to
Still has to be done.
the 30,000 property tax owners. Their taxes are going to go up every time they give an exemption. And people aren't paying attention.
And they're not like they're funding the mandate.
Yeah, they're not coming up with the money to offset it.
We also got, there's some other bills up there exempting certain people from paying or getting discount on their property tax. We don't know how that would impact us. Once we set a budget and then people will apply for these exemptions, you know, we may not be able to fulfill our budget if there's an influx of people that qualify for that exemption.
But I think, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but what I stated was the answer is never taking more people off of the tax rolls if you're trying to reduce taxes on especially on residential, which continues to be what the state basically forces us to do is to shift more and more onto residential taxation because they remove the commercial, the business machinery exemption. They remove taxes on sales tax, which, again, a lot of entities rely on. So, and then they criticize us for doing it.
I have a question. If we got time, I know we're getting off in the woods here, but
I'll let you have one more, and we'll go to consent agenda.
Could the county pass us another sales tax for just specifically property tax relief?
You have to put it on a ballot.
Put it on a ballot. I mean, could we put it on a ballot that, you know, because the state's talking about doing that, but if they don't do it, could you do it at the local level and just take that sales tax portion?
Well, I think that I don't know where our limit is on sales tax. It would obviously have to be a ballot if we wanted to do anything.
Right.
The county could commit your own funds. As the county, we could commit those funds to whatever the Board of County Commissioners at the time determined was most reasonable. However, keep in mind that 65% of the sales tax, 55% of the sales tax that's collected in Leavenworth County
Goes to
go
the
back to the
cities.
cities,
Right.
and they wouldn't have that same restriction in their instance.
Well, if we could all be on the same page.
That's one of the I don't want to say it's a challenge, but that's one of the things that any sales tax we put in place countywide is shared with the local municipalities,
Doug,
and most of it goes to
You
them.
bring up a good thing, and I'm getting old, so I forget. Well, didn't the city of Leavenworth
They
do
did.
like something like this years ago and cut their mill levy in half? And I can't remember how it was set up.
Well, it was
Well,
for
we're getting
property
way off
tax.
into the weeds on this
But-
now. I
but-
think that we need to kind of bring it back
Yeah,
around.
I know.
And
But-
if there's something you want to talk about in a work session
Yeah.
when it comes to some of these things, that works for me, but I think we need to,
We'll get it there during budget time.
right.
Let's
There you
just
go.
move on.
Let's
You're
move.
correct.
So there's just I'm not going to read anymore because it's just ridiculous. But I do want one other clarification, which I won't read, is
Sure, go ahead.
that he asserts that commissioners are making X amount of money, $50,000 a year for working a day and a half a week. So that's anybody up here that thinks we're working a day and a half a week.
As it's more like
That's not accurate. That's all I have to say.
50 or 60 hours a week.
I've came in here on the weekend and Jeff's here.
I worked this weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, we are moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that we need to have removed from the consent agenda before it is approved?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Begin voting with Commissioner
I'll add a
Colbert.
little discussion on
Oh,
that, if
okay,
you don't
discussion,
mind.
please. Yes, go ahead.
There was one of these plats we're approving. We had got there was a letter in there from the fire department about the condition of Rural Water District 8's distribution center or distribution system. It said that they opened up a fire hydrant on Eisenhower Road and it cut the pressure on the whole district. Well, didn't the county design that water line on Eisenhower Road and paid for it for the water district and put 7 fire hydrants on an 8-inch line?
Commissioner, my recollection is that the Eisenhower project provided that the county would relocate Rural Water District Number 8's line, and consequently the county did design and install that line.
Well, across the road, on the north side of the road, is a 24-inch line, and it's only got 2 fire hydrants on it. And that's the beginning of where Water District 8 begins. They just hook on to the Leavenworth Water Department right there. So to have 7 fire hydrants right there on an 8-inch line, it probably would cause some problems. So maybe the county should have put a water tower there if they were going to do that. So anyways, it's not the water district, I don't think. It's a problem.
I guess hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, well, drive down there and look at it. There's 7 fire hydrants on an 8-inch water line in that little short stretch.
Okay, well, I have a motion and a second. I will begin voting with Commissioner Culbertson.
All right.
Aye.
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 Okay, consent agenda has been approved. We're going to move on to formal board action. We need to consider a motion to approve case number DEV 23-001 and 002, preliminary and final plat for Double M.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
For you is a request for approval of a preliminary and final plat for Double M Acres. This property is located on, 20078 235th Street. This property might look familiar to you. Last summer, they did apply to rezone the property from RR5 to RR 2.5. It was approved. However, when they went to survey the property, they found that they don't actually have 5 acres. Most likely due to the way that the existing roads are set up around there. I think there was thought that they did have right-of-way that they could include in their acreage, which they did not. So the applicant did apply to get a variance from the minimum lot size in the 2.5 zoning district. That was approved in November of 2022 by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So they proceeded with their preliminary and final plat. As you'll note, Lot 1 is only 2.35 acres, so it doesn't meet the 2.5 acres, but they did get that variance approved in November. The Planning Commission did review this at their March meeting, and they approved it with the conditions that were provided for you. So if you have any further questions, staff would be happy to answer them.
I believe the County Road 30 project, would that have caused the right-of-way to go away on this?
It might have. I think it's really more the fact that, as I understand it, when KDOT takes roadway, they take the whole roadway. They own that right-of-way.
The road used to go through clear to George Road there, and then when they done County Road 30 back in 2005, they moved the intersection and vacated that road.
They might have done that. I don't know the whole history of the roadways around there, so.
So
Doug does.
it wasn't the property owner's fault,
Right.
I mean, really. So I'd say it's good. It's Mr. Stevens' area.
Okay, I'd like to move that we approve case number DEV 23-001 and 002 preliminary and final plat for Double M.
I'll second that.
The motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Culberson.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Doug Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, now we need to consider a motion to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Council on Aging and Perky's Cafe for the leisure and learning program activities. Good morning, Connie.
Good morning, Commissioners. A little over a month ago, Tracy Smith, owner and operator of Perky's Cafe in Basor, reached out offering his private dining space in his location in Basor for us to offer additional activities at no cost to the county in the southern part of the county. It would be health-related activities, social activities, educational activities that we would offer there. And so what you have before you is that memorandum of understanding that we're seeking approval to be able to operate activities in that space during their regular operating hours between 6:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sunday if needed.
I think that's.
I don't know why we would
I know
object to having someone that is wanting to do something to help.
Well,
So,
people, it's a
Yeah,
really
give-
good restaurant, good
Right.
food, and they've got great parking.
kind of a
I'd say
smart
this is
move for a business owner.
This is great for Council on Aging. So.
I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Council on Aging and Perky's Cafe for the leisure and learning program activities.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Culberson.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith. Aye. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
Connie?
See you later, Connie.
Okay, and moving on, consider a motion to approve the lease agreement with Sherman Township Fire Department for the salt dome and greater storage. Morning, Bill.
Hey,
Good morning,
Bill.
Commissioners. Today for your consideration is the continuance of the previous 10-year lease agreement with Sherman Township. It is a ongoing lease with a 12-month notice of termination by either party if we wanted to exit the lease before the 10-year period. They have requested a $500 increase in the yearly payment from $1,000 to $1,500. The county would probably not ever engage the 12-month notice of the lease unless we were to enter into an agreement with KDOT to relocate the salt dome to a location at K32 and 206th Street at some point in the future.
It's not going to happen, probably.
Probably.
Any questions?
Yeah, I did the first one of these. We were looking for a piece of property down there we were going to purchase, and that's when this agreement came up with the township. I mean, we park a grader there. We got a salt dome there. Getting by pretty cheap, I think. But I was hoping at the end of 10 years they wouldn't kick us out. So I'm glad we're doing this again. I'm not going to be here on the next 10 years.
You or me?
I can
Either one of us.
guarantee that. So it's Commissioner Stevens' area.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the lease agreement with Sherman Township Fire Department for the salt dome and greater storage.
A second?
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Culberson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith? Aye. Commissioner
Aye.
Smith? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Presentations and discussion items. And let's see if we want to start with Commissioner Culberson. Is there anything that you want to share?
No, I don't have anything this week. Extraordinary.
I have just two things. One I just added. St. Patty's Day parade really had a good time. A little cool, kind of windy, but it was good to see everybody out there and some of the creative floats. And since it wasn't the right time to say it earlier, Mark, I want to make sure that when we start doing our budgets, that we do know what happened and how Leavenworth did do that. It may not be something that can fit with us, but anybody that can cut their mill levy in half, I at least want to have that conversation. That's all I have.
Okay. I'll go ahead and do mine. Let's see. I had participated in the NECAP Board of Directors meeting on Thursday evening last week. And then on Saturday, I presented to the League of Women Voters for their meeting. And I participated in the NAACP monthly meeting on Saturday as well. Then I had Workforce Partnership Board meeting yesterday,
List goes on and
the
on.
Port Authority meeting yesterday, and attended the City Commission meeting for Leavenworth last evening. And I will be
Now,
participating.
you did that all work in a day and a half up here,
Right.
I did that on a day and a half.
Okay.
And then this afternoon, after this meeting, I
Good
will be
resistance.
attending the Transportation Board meeting, KCATA meeting.
And of course, did the parade, had Basher last week, got Basher again tonight, and have Fairmount tomorrow night, and then Tuesday, we've got
Yeah.
the State of the City address.
Baser.
And that's the same time the Mid-America Regional Council meeting's going. But I'm going to go to the mayor's.
Yeah, I'll be attending that too.
And I think that's it. That's it.
I'll be at the Mark meeting, Doug. So.
You'll do the Mark meeting? Okay.
Parade was fun. Go ahead, Commissioner
gotta say
Stevens.
I enjoyed the parade too. And the weather was great compared to the next day.
It was cold.
Could have been worse.
It got colder.
Remember the one that we did?
Oh, yeah.
Just you and I were on the, yeah. we covered
Susan
all
was there
the
too.
Okay, now do we have any additional public comment this morning? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Work
adjourn.
session.
Second.
Begin with Commissioner Culberson.
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Okay.